Tapes and
This is Tapes and Tales, and my name's Dan Jagger. And what we're doing is we're bringing you some cinematic short stories for you. Maybe on your ride to work, maybe on your way home from work. The theme that we've got for this episode is odd blokes, strange fellas. You've seen them, you know them, maybe you are one. Weird guys. So short stories on that theme coming up from Gareth Heaton, and we've also got one from Jake Costello. But first, our first story of the episode is from Matthew Hattersley.
Trevor Timmings had some time off work. Trevor hadn't really wanted the time off, but they said it was probably for the best. Just for the time being, they said, while things got ironed out. So here Trevor was, with lots of time on his hands. Trevor also had lots of wood. Too much wood, really. For the first few days of having it, he just stared at it, not sure what to do. It was an awful lot of wood. Trevor realised now that he really shouldn't have bought this much wood, especially when he wasn't really working. But Jim Willis had always been so persuasive, and it had sounded like a good deal at the time. Who doesn't like a good deal? So here Trevor was, with all this wood, filling up his spare room and most of the landing. He had to do something with it. The next day, Trevor got up early and set to work. By lunchtime, he'd built himself a bookcase. It was a good bookcase. Then he built a table and some chairs. He even built himself a half-decent fireplace. After he'd finished, Trevor sat in one of his chairs and surveyed his handiwork. "I've done a cracking job there," he thought, "if I do say so myself." Trevor even wondered whether he could make a career out of this, now he was having all this time off work. There was still quite a lot of stuff left over though. Wood and nail stuff mainly, and some paint. What would he do with it all? Trevor decided he'd try his hand at building himself a wife. Excitedly, he drew out some plans and set to work. He soon realised, however, that building a wife was a lot harder than building a bookcase. There were less angles, Trevor realised, so it was harder to fit the wood together. He'd also decided his wife was going to be one of those plump austere wives, like the cook from Downton Abbey, so it was doubly hard. Still, Trevor kept on with his work. Throughout the day and night, and next day and next night, he sawed and hammered and nailed. Finally, the next morning she was ready, his new wife. He painted her hair a lovely yellow colour, and even put a lick of red paint on for her lips. She was so beautiful. Trevor was very happy with his new wife. He decided to call her Claire. He hoped they'd be very happy together. But Trevor soon noticed that things weren't working out too well. Claire didn't do any cooking, and she wouldn't clean. And worse, she'd given Trevor splinters. As Trevor limped back into the bedroom one morning, he'd decided enough was enough. There Claire was, laying languidly on the bed as usual, that same unyielding countenance, staring inanely at the ceiling. She had to go, thought Trevor. He'd made his mind up. Without saying another word, he approached the bed. Awkwardly, he picked Claire up, and in in one motion began dragging her onto the landing. On the way, however, Claire became too heavy for Trevor, and she accidentally slipped through his fingers. As Trevor watched, frozen, Claire toppled a few times on the landing, then crashed noisily down the stairs. That's what he'd tell people anyway, thought Trevor, that she slipped. If anyone asked, that'd be his story. It'd be fine though, he thought. No one will suspect. Trevor was happy again. Plus now, Claire was in two pieces and made an excellent footstand and telephone table. Furniture was best, thought Trevor. He'd had enough of wives. Never again, thought Trevor.
Tapes.
And
What a brilliant story. That was called Trevor, and it was by Matthew Hattersley. I wanted to tell you quickly about our Twitter account. We're at Tapes and Tales, and if you follow us, we'll be able to tell you when our next episode is out, so that's incentive for you there. Our theme for this episode is odd blokes, weird fellas, strange guys. So let's crack on with the stories, and this is a story from Jake Costello.
Tapes and Tales.
Oh, and there are some swears in this one.
My name is Marcus. I was born in 1982 and I'm 32 years old. My mother took me to the doctors in 1985. By 1999 I was the subject of numerous documentaries. My head is 44 inches in diameter and it won't stop growing. I had a brief experience of fame due to this. I suppose I've had my 15 minutes of fame. It's said I have the largest cranium in the world. What came with this was the attention. Some people were bitter about it. I mean, I couldn't go to the cinema or theatre or go on an aeroplane without a chorus of tutting and at times name-calling. Hey Arnold, things like that. I became a recluse, but due to financial problems I decided to show my large face again, do some TV appearances, get a new car. Celebrity Big Brother. I was voted off in the first week. I'm a quiet guy. My head doesn't reflect this. It's my career now, like that woman on Channel 4 with the facial burns. This year, I was given a free ticket to the Brit Awards. I was sat at the back, for obvious reasons. I stood at the bar mostly, trying not to block people's views. My head now is about 75 inches. I've never worn a baseball cap. I was drinking some free wine. The former EastEnders actor Joe Swash approached me. He asked me if I wanted to go to an after party with a few faces. He then asked me, "Are you gay, mate? It's just I don't want you getting any ideas." I told him I wasn't. He stared at me for 36 seconds. The after party was in a flat near Canary Wharf. I had to get my own taxi, a kind of minibus that I get a special discount for. When I got to the big flat, the music was playing theme tunes from different television series, and as I looked around the spacious reception area, I saw Dave Benson Phillips from Get Your Own Back and Playbus talking to himself in the corner. All I heard was him repeating the line, "There's way too many characters on telly these days. And as I walked past, he said, "You fucking big-headed bitch." I didn't want any trouble, and he's quite a big guy, so he looked to be in a bad place, so I went and fixed myself a drink from the bar. Pat Sharp was drinking neat vodka, and those two blonde twins from the very TV show he presented called Funhouse were sniffing lines of Speed and laughing at him, not with him. Nobody at this party seemed to listen to each other. They talked like they were presenting TV shows. Joe Swash again asked me if I was gay. I said, "No, I'm not." And then he stared at me, this time for 47 seconds. I went to the bathroom to use the toilet, and Jessica Ennis barged me aggressively for no reason whilst Ross Kemp was pissing in their corner. I guess he liked to live dangerously, as it was right near where Dave Benson Phillips was standing and talking to himself. Whilst using the toilet, I heard a fracas. I came outside, and Paul and Barry Chuckle was brandishing knives and stabbing people at will. It was like an X-rated of their TV show. To me, to you, to me, to you, to me. See you. See me. I ran to the front door and Joe Swash blocked the door. Where you going, bro? I said, I'm going to leave as it's not my scene and I didn't want to get stubbed by Barry or Paul Chuckle. Joe Swash laughed for 52 seconds continuously with a smile like the bull on the front of Mad magazine. 32 people died that night. I wasn't one of them.
Tapes and
Tapes and Tales.
The fat man is the king. A very fat man with cross eyes and a terribly ill-fitting shiny beige suit walked into the room. His hair were nicely coiffed, and he could have passed for a man in his mid-40s had it not been for his bum-fluff tash. He gripped a Poundland carry bag whilst he browsed the foreign language section. Rightly or wrongly, I judged it was rather dim. I carried on looking for Death Wish whilst keeping a surreptitious eye on the big guy. I idly leafed through a few rows and turned to find he'd shuffled a long way a little to the Disney section, from Strosek to Snow White in a sidestep. Momentarily I considered whether he'd ever been looking at the foreign language films, but due to his cross eyes it was easy to look at Disney from an angle. Then he disappeared behind a pillar and broke my concentration. I watched as he emerged belly first. As he approached the counter it made me think of this article I'd read about these South African men who were immaculately groomed and spent every last penny on expensive European suits. I think they're called swankers. I wondered if this guy had read about the swankers as well, but his door would only stretch to this shiny suit. It's a shame he couldn't get the legs of it to stretch as far as he had the doll. His aftershave was rather pungent. I could taste it on the back of my throat in queue. It made my eyes hurt and I wondered if that aftershave was what messed his eyes up. Probably not. I wanted to see what we were buying but I couldn't see over his shoulder. He had a surprisingly high-pitched voice though, like the big guys you always see in films. I bet his mates called him Tiny. I saw him again a few weeks later. I was walking past Albion and he was stood there with a couple of blokes. I think he had 2 bottles of Blue Wicked in a pint glass. He was wearing the same suit.
Tapes
and
Well, there you go. Odd blokes, weird fellas. There's The Fat Man is the King by Gareth Heaton, and before that, it was A Bit of a Character by Jake Costello. And at the start of the show, we had Trevor by Matthew Hattersley. Tapes and Tales is produced by me, Dan Jagger, and it's a back bedroom production. And I'd just like to thank all our contributors and all the writers that get involved with us. Another great show, another great set of stories. Just the Twitter again. We're at Tapes and Tales. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.